The party of law and order and accountability is threatening to defund and destroy the nation's premier law enforcement agency for daring to try to hold a criminal accountable for his crimes. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe and enjoy the video. So in the aftermath of Donald Trump's indictment, his sycophants, his cultists in the Republican Party in both chambers of Congress have repeatedly threatened to defund or destroy the FBI, the nation's premier law enforcement organizations, the cops, the biggest cops in the country. The party that says they back the blue, the party of law and order, the party of personal accountability says they're going to crush law and order because law and order, the blue in this situation, is attempting to hold a person accountable who's committed crimes. Does that make sense? Perhaps if you're a Republican, because again, as we've discussed, the Republican leadership and many in the Republican base, the voting base, don't care about principle, don't care about consistency, and are perfectly, totally okay, permissible of hypocrisy. As a matter of fact, in many cases, they encourage it. So Republicans only want law and order when it comes to weaponizing law and order to crush marginalized groups, disenfranchised groups, ethnic minorities, progressives, women. All of that's fine to Republicans. But if you try to hold powerful political people like Donald Trump, for example, accountable for his litany of crimes, as demonstrated by a very persuasive, very well-established, very well-evidenced indictment, such as the one presented by Jack Smith, the special counsel, well, then that's unacceptable. That's a bridge too far. They say that nobody is above the law, except for Donald Trump. Well, he should be above the law because it would be divisive. It would be really divisive and really kind of messy to try to hold him accountable for his situation. We're not saying that we support it, but it would be really bad. Now, it wouldn't have been divisive or anything like that to prosecute Hillary Clinton or even Joe Biden. That's okay. The sitting president, perfectly okay. But really, Donald Trump is this gerrymandered exception to law and order. That's how the Republican brain works. And we see, again, Donald Trump cultists in Congress actively calling for the defunding or the obstruction or the total destruction of the FBI. And I want to play a couple of clips here, and we're going to start with Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of course we must. And let's play the clip and unpack what she has to say.
Thank you. Today, I'd like to announce that I'm writing an appropriations rider to defund Jack Smith's special counsel, his office, and the investigation. This is a weaponized government attempt to take down the top political enemy and leading presidential candidate of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We cannot allow the government to be weaponized for political purposes. I'd also like to ask all of my colleagues to join me in this effort. We have to use the power of appropriations to stop the weaponization of government, especially in light that we know that there are others who are guilty of true crimes. Never forget that former Secretary of State and Senator Hillary Clinton had classified documents on Anthony Weiner's laptop, who was convicted of sexting a minor inappropriate pictures. This is not how classified documents should be handled. There should have been an investigation done into that. Don't forget Joe Biden's documents that are sitting in his garage next to his Corvette where the door opens and closes. America sees this for exactly what it is, and we will not allow it to stand. I yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, as a reminder, all doors open and close, not just Joe Biden's Corvette garage door. The doors to Mar-a-Lago, as a matter of fact, open and close, including to the bathroom in which boxes and boxes and boxes of national defense information that Donald Trump was not authorized or permitted to have as a civilian, those doors open as well. Joe Biden is also the sitting president of the United States, and he is currently under investigation by a special counsel, Robert Hur, a Republican, I might add, and who knows where that will go. Okay, so Donald Trump is being investigated. Hillary Clinton was investigated for years by the Justice Department and the FBI and Senate and congressional Republicans. They also looked into this. So, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a deeply, profoundly stupid woman, for which there is no analog in the Democratic Party. The dumbest Democrat is smarter than Marjorie Taylor Greene substantially. So she's just wrong simply on the facts. Now, again, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, so we probably shouldn't be surprised. There are other congressional Republicans who have something to say on this matter. So let's again play the clip and unpack. This is Representative Alex Moody of Virginia, West Virginia.
Now that this is the new normal, that we go after political opposition, I think that we need to. Now that this is the new normal, that we go after political opposition, I think that we need to fight fire with fire. I'm proud of the work of Chuck Grassley, Chairman Comer over here on the House side, where we have subpoena power now. Now that the Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, and Jim Jordan's Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, we have subpoena power. We need to use that to fight back. And these gentlemen are doing that. Takes a little time here, but the other side has ratcheted it up here. They are ruthless, and this has been happening for a while now. The left in this country has been abusing their power and authorities, going on one-sided witch hunts, making the rule of law a mockery of the rule of law, having one set of laws for Republicans and one for Democrats, frankly. Look, but we fund that. And Republicans now control the House of Representatives, and we need not only to investigate, but frankly to restrict funding to the FBI, Department of Justice, and any other rogue organization that's abusing their power.
So there again, whether you like it or not, you have Republicans seeing this as a fight, and they need to fight fire with fire. Obviously, this is misplaced. This is ridiculous because, again, Hillary Clinton is under was under investigation. President Biden is, at this very moment, under investigation. Mike Pence was under investigation. The charges were dismissed. So it wasn't just Donald Trump. But unfortunately, these people struggle to comprehend the fact that just because you have multiple investigations, that doesn't mean that the targets of those investigations are all guilty, all necessarily guilty, or all equally guilty of equal crimes. It's just this very childlike understanding of how justice works. This idea that, okay, if a Republican is investigated, so too must a Democrat. Just by cosmic law of the universe, a Democrat must be investigated if a Republican is going to be. And if a Republican is found guilty after an investigation, then so too must the Democrat be found guilty of something as bad or worse. Otherwise, the Justice Department is partisan. Well, that's unfortunately not how it works, right? The idea that simply because person A is guilty of a crime doesn't necessarily mean that person B is guilty of a crime, or that even person B should be investigated in the first place. Now, if a person is credibly accused of committing a crime, if there's evidence to support it, then yes, they should be investigated. If the evidence stacks up, then the prosecutor should prosecute. But again, it's a childlike understanding of almost like how fairness works. Like, if you're a parent and you have two kids, if you punish one, you must punish the other, even if the second kid had nothing to do with it. Like, it's a child's understanding of how justice and fairness works. But that, again, that's how Republicans, particularly Republican leaders, that's how their brains work. It's very profoundly immature. Now we have J.D. Vance, the recently elected, I'm pretty sure he's a senator from Illinois. He, I believe, is also the author of Hillbilly Elegy. So let's hear what he has to say on the matter.
Hey guys, JD Vance here. I'm out on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, and I've heard from a lot of people that they're so frustrated, as I am, with the fact that Merrick Garland has used the Department of Justice for politics instead of law. And I think it's time we stop just whining about this problem and debating this problem and actually do something about it. So I've announced today that I will be holding all Department of Justice nominees that Merrick Garland will use, if confirmed, not to enforce the law impartially, which is his duty, but clearly to harass his political opponents. I think that we have to grind this department to a halt until Merrick Garland promises to do his job and stop going after his political opponents. Donald Trump is just one and in the most recent example of the fact that Merrick Garland uses his department for political purposes. We have Catholic fathers harassed for their pro-life activism. We, of course, have violent criminals walking the streets after the 2020 summer of riots. And if you're letting the violent criminals go free and you're harassing Christian parents for their political activism, you're not engaged in justice, you're engaged in politics. Let's be honest about that fact, and let's make this department work a little bit more slowly until Merrick Garland changes course and actually does his job the right way. Thank you.
So there you have it. Again, the party of law and order wants to grind away the Department of Justice because they don't like the fact that Donald Trump has been indicted by a jury of his peers in Florida, not Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland didn't snap his fingers and say, arrest him. They had to convene a grand jury in Florida. The grand jury saw the evidence, and a majority or a unanimity of the grand jury decided that Trump should be indicted, and that's what happened. Wasn't President Biden, wasn't Merrick Garland, wasn't even technically Jack Smith. So J.D. Vance is, per usual, as is often the case with Republican leaders, just simply wrong on the facts. As far as the George Floyd protests, many of those cases are being handled at the state and local level, and to the extent that federal charges have been made, the federal government has indeed charged and convicted rioters as well. But again, what it is, it's just constant deflection. The fact of the matter is that in this particular case, the leading Republican candidate for the 2024 presidency is credibly accused of committing crimes, and the evidence is robust. And out of a sense of fairness or political unity, which Republicans never endorsed, because again, they didn't espouse any of this when Hillary Clinton was the target of investigations. They didn't say, you know what, guys, it's actually politically divisive to target Hillary Clinton in this way, or to target Joe Biden in this way. No, it's a completely different standard. They want Donald Trump to be graded on a curve. They want political affirmative action. They want legal affirmative action for Republicans and Donald Trump's. Hold Democrats accountable for crimes they do, or even crimes that they don't do, but don't hold Republicans accountable for crimes they actually commit, because if you do, it's politically divisive. And if you attempt to do so, then dang it, we're just going to try to crush the Department of Justice and the FBI. So it's really pathetic. It's profoundly hypocritical. And I'm sure we're going to see more of this as developments occur in terms of the indictment against Donald Trump and eventually the trial.